right, guys and girls, welcome back to the newest edition of Bubblegum Sports Unfiltered post Super Bowl edition. And so that means there's only one season and one season only that matters, and that's, well, one and a half. Major League Baseball, but basketball is still ongoing, and might we have some hope for the rest of the season? We'll talk about that later in the show. Before we get to that, Pacoda Projections from Baseball Prospectus, who are probably the most, nobody's perfect right in their projections every year, but this particular projections are usually the most accurate and widely used around the league. Now, last year, if you guys remember, Clayton wasn't on the show. The Claymaker wasn't on the show yet, Jeff. But if you remember, I think all of us were pretty accurate at picking the Cubs a low 90s. We had the Brewers around 500 last year, Jeff, if I remember correctly. So we were more off on the Brewers than we were the Cubs. So I was pretty dang close on the Cubs. And I actually have the Brewers higher than this company does this year, but we're going to get into that in a second. I'm going to go over their projections first, and then we'll talk about them a little bit, all right? I'm sure we have plenty to talk about. I'm sure we have people in the chat. Some are going to be happy. Some are going to be whining, like Aaron Rodgers when the game's on the line. So we're gonna see here. All right. So according to Pacoda Projections here, again from Baseball Prospectus, they have the Cubs winning 90.5 games this year. Now, again, this is all computer generated, so that's where you get the half of games from. They just run a bunch of generations of simulations. The Brewers, they have it 80.5 wins. Okay. Jeff, this will make you happy. The Pittsburgh Pirates at 79.6. Who would have thought roughly 500 if that happens? The Cincinnati Reds, they have fourth at 78.8. The St. Louis Cardinals. Now, no matter what team you're a fan of, I think we can all generally agree that we're happy to see this day finally come where St. Louis is complete trash and has no hope for the future. They are projected to win 66 games. Okay. Now, playoff percentage. They have the Cubs at 87.1. They have the Brewers at 30.7. Pittsburgh at 27.2. Cincinnati 23.1. And St. Louis at 0.4. Okay. Now, let's get to some comments here. They're all from Ben. He's back. Finally. We've been begging for Ben for how many weeks now? He said, Void, if you tune in, I heard you ace that report. So, I feel like there's a friendly little banter between the two because Ben knows that he's Void's first hero. And then Ben also followed that up with last year, didn't they project the Brewers under 500? And he says he remember who was pretty accurate on his projections. I think he said 100 to 110 wins. I don't remember him saying that on the Brewers. So. But, all right, let's get into it. I want to get your guys' initial thoughts first, and then I'm going to go over some lineup projections for the Cubs and Brewers to get people thinking a little bit. What is your guys' initial reaction to these projections?
Initially, I would think they're a little off on the Brewers with only a 30% chance. Their team didn't change a whole lot. I still think they have a decent enough team, especially in the division. It's going to come down to the Brewers and Cubs once again for the division. Them ranking the Pirates right behind the Brewers is kind of a joke. I don't know. The Pirates haven't done anything. They haven't picked up anybody. The only thing, if they run Skeens out there 5 days a week, yeah, maybe they might have a shot. But otherwise, the Pirates aren't going to be that close to the Brewers in the standings. I think the Reds have a decent team. I think the Reds should be projected a little higher. But it's always great to see the Cardinals be the trash of the division. Everybody hates them, no matter who you root for. Everybody roots against the Cardinals, and it's great to see that team is finally eliminated from playoff contention, like before the season starts. So I'm happy about that. And as Benny predicted, he says he predicted 100 wins last year.
I don't remember that.
He also predicted A-Rod to win the MVP. So
oh wow,
yeah, whatever.
And a Super Bowl, he said. Clay, what do you think of first when you see those projections?
Well, I think they'll be pretty accurate on the Cubs. I do think they're undershooting the Brewers a little bit. I think Brewers will probably be 85 to 95 wins, somewhere in that ballpark. I think they still got really good bullpen. They got, Brandon Woodruff's healthy, so they got a frontline starter. Adding Kyle Harrison in that division, big trade. I really like what the potential of him is going to be.
And he's
I
lefty
think
too, isn't he? Kyle
he's a
Harrison.
lefty. Throws high
They
90s,
needed
good
a
slider.
because that's a great point because you know how many lefties they had in the rotation? I don't think they had any before they acquired him, did they?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think. Was Priester a lefty? I can't remember offhand. But having a good quality young starting left-handed pitcher too. I mean, he's 24 years old, 5 years of control. But I like the Brewers lineup. It's still going to be that scrappy lineup. Losing Durbin, I like Durbin, but I mean, let's be honest. 11 homers, 250 average. He could be better, but it's this year he could be better. But Rengifo could be a big pickup added in there. But I like what they got going on. I still think they're going to be a tough team to beat. They're good defense, good pitching. They're scrappy. I think that'll be a tough battle for the Cubs. I think Pittsburgh's the bottom of the barrel there. I do. I don't think the Cardinals are the worst team in that
You
division.
don't think so?
I every year we say, even when the
That's
Cardinals suck, usually they're better than we think they are. And I think the Cardinals will be better than we think they are. They're going to struggle to start out, but mid-season, I think they're going to get a little better. I see them finishing third or fourth in the division, but not behind the Pirates. I think
It seems,
Pirates will be last.
yeah, you're right, Clay. It seems the Cards are always kind of like in the mix somewhere around the line. They're never truly out of it. They're just enough to annoy people. But
Yep.
I think this is the year they're done. So
so obviously we have a few different fans. We have a Go Cubs, and then Bed says F the Cubs. And so we have a nice little friendly banter going in our chat, which we love. Let's go over these projected lineups. Now, again, the managers have every right to change these. These are not from the managers. This is just kind of what Bleacher Report was projecting. Let's go over the Cubs. Michael Busch leading off, which I think they probably will. I always like having a little bit of pop potential out of your leadoff spot. And this was when they first signed Alex Bregman, I said I would bat him second. That's the first thought I had. And they have him projected hitting second, Ian Happ third, Suzuki cleanup, PCA 5. And if you look at part of the thinking behind this, it's going lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty. So I always like that too if you have that versatility. Nico Horner 6. Ballesteros DHing 7th, but I think Matt Shaw's going to get some time in right field / DH as well. Dansby Swanson, and then catcher Carson Kelly. Their rotation, they upgraded dramatically this year. Cade Horton, Matthew Boyd, Edward Cabrera with that big trade, and Imanaga, who came back on the qualifying offer, and Tyon in the 5 spot. Now, again, they're one of their top 2 pitchers, Justin Steele. He'll be back in the first half of the year. They lost him pretty much all last year as well. Let's get into the Brewers lineup a little bit. Jackson Cheerios, left field. Bryce Terang, second base. Contreras, who's not even the best player in his own family. Catcher, batting third. Christian, I'm just kidding about that, by the way, guys. He's better than his brother. So don't at me in the comments. I understand. I'm just kidding there. Christian Yelich DHing. Andrew Vaughn. Now, here's a question I have for the Brewers, and this is what I wonder when they're doing these projections. If guys like Andrew Vaughn don't have career years again, if he comes back more to what his career averages have been, maybe that's part of what they factor in to some of these projections. Andrew Vaughn, 5, playing first base. Sal Frelick, 6, right field. Garrett Mitchell, 7th, center field. I don't think Joey Ortiz is going to bat 8th. I actually think he's going to be 9th. And Rengifo is going to be the third baseman. I think out of the, to start the season, I think they'll bat him a little bit higher up. But this came out right before that signing, so he'll probably be up a little bit in the lineup. The rotation, like Clayton mentioned, Woodruff, Priester, Mizorowski. Hopefully, it all depends on Miz. What do you guys think? His control is the biggest issue, right? It's not his stuff.
No, he kind of fell apart there late in the season, but he picked it up in the playoffs, and he had some good games in the playoffs. I don't know what it was. The last couple of games, 3 games of the regular season was just, it was rough. I don't know what was going on. He did have that little injury there for a little bit. I don't know if that was hampering him, but when he did pitch in the playoffs, he did it very well. I think did a good job. But yeah, it's going to be up to him staying healthy, and this is going to be a long year for him. He's going to be there the whole year. He wasn't there the whole year last year, so this is going to be interesting.
And then Chad Patrick 4, Kyle Harrison, like Clayton talked about 5. And when I was typing these out, that's the first thing I noticed. That's the one lefty in the rotation. Might have been part of the reason, besides potential, they acquired a left-handed pitcher. Anything stick out to you guys about those two lineups or rotations off the top of your head?
Basically the same as last year. It's not a whole lot has changed for the Brewers. Are they going to be able to perform like they did last year? Like you mentioned, Andrew Vaughn, is he going to have another career year? Because that just came out of the blue. I mean, he was a AAA player, I believe, when the Brewers acquired him.
Yeah.
He wasn't even with the Sox, so they acquired him, and all of a sudden he's, lights out. He's the MVP candidate.
He went through a stretch. It's not. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say he went through like a Barry Bonds level stretch for that window of time that he had not really achieved anywhere remotely close to in his career up until that point. Now, can he do it over a full season is going to be the question, because now there's going to be a little bit of expectations and pressure on him. When he came to Milwaukee, he almost was expected to do nothing, right? Yeah. He started his career with some expectations, got traded to Milwaukee, and by then, though, the league, at least maybe Brewers fans did, but around the league, there wasn't much to expect out of him, and he had a great time with the Brewers. Can he do it again, though, on a full season with expectations is the question. What do you think, Clay?
Well, a few things. I think part of Mizorowski's issues was a lot of nerves, just not being in that situations. I think, a full season under his belt's going to help a ton with him just calming down, not being so nervous. I do like their rotation. I like the potential there for the Brewers, but getting over to like Andrew Vaughn, I don't think he's going to be at that Barry Bonds level like he said he was for the season, but I don't think his level is what you saw at the White Sox. I mean, he was a first pick in a draft when he got drafted for a reason. But, when you play in just a shit organization like the White Sox, a crap organization with a crap team around you, and they don't care, that makes a huge difference on how you feel and how you're, how guys perform and play. You see it a lot in baseball when you're in a bad situation, or in sports in general. That can make a huge difference. So I expect a pretty decent year out of Andrew Vaughn. I don't think you're going to see 40 homers or anything, but I could see 20 to 30 homers and, anywhere from 80 RBIs, give or take a little bit. That would be a successful year. If he's hitting 250 with doing that, that's a good year out of him. But, he's still pretty young. He's inexperienced in a lot of ways playing for an organization like the White Sox. I think,
there is something to be said, like you hit the nail on the head, Clay. There's something to be said for you showing up for work every day at the ballpark and you have no chance to win. Your ownership group doesn't treat you very well. You have, horrible facilities as far as, what the players have rated it and stuff like that. It can't be a whole lot of fun going to the ballpark if you're a White Sox player, to be quite honest. So there is something to be said for a change of scenery. And like you just touched on also, part of the question marks every year for the Brewers are why people, I think, keep doubting them, at least for the quote-unquote experts, is they are so young up and down that order. And I think every year people just wonder, can they do it again because they're so young? And they've hit on so many of these rookies and young people and some of the guys they've traded for that have just taken off. And, man, mentally you just don't think it's possible to run that back again at such a high level. But up to this point, they've done a pretty good job of doing that. Let's get into predictions. Do you guys have a prediction in mind for the Brewers? How many games do you think the Brewers are going to win if you had to pick one number?
I'd go with 92.
92. Wow.
I'm gonna go into the 90s. I think they're gonna hit 92.
Clay, what do you think?
I think they'll win 94 games this year.
Whew. I got them at 85. I got them at 8. Now, last year I predicted them to win. I believe 81. I believe I had the Brewers at 81. And I have them at 85 this year. So I like them quite a bit better. Actually, last year I liked them better than the projections, and I do even more so this year. I got the Cubs at 95. I had them at 92 last year, I believe. I do think their lineup is quite a bit more solid and deeper, and their pitching rotation is also quite a bit deeper. Where do you guys see the Cubs at this year?
I'd say the Cubs probably 95, 96. It's going to be 1-2 again, Brewers and Cubs fighting it out at the end of the season. But I could see them 95, 96. They have improved, not a whole lot, but they've definitely improved over last season. So that's gonna show on the field, I think. And if they get Steele back and they get some of those injuries that they had last year, some of those injuries really killed them because they started off pretty decent, and then all of a sudden there was a stretch there where they got some bad injuries, and that
100%.
kind of fell apart.
And that, that's part of the game, though, too. And this is one of the few off seasons from a Cubs fan perspective. I always lay out, man, I wish, and you guys do too, as Brewers fans, you lay out, I wish they do this, this, and this. This is one of the very few off seasons they actually checked every single, they needed another starting pitcher. They needed solid bullpen. They needed one more bat, specifically Alex Bregman, and they knocked all those out of the park. I think in a lot of ways, the Brewers did Cubs fans a favor by beating them last year because it reminded ownership to stop being cheap. Because I think the Cubs are actually pretty cheap in free agency the last couple of years. Where do you see them at this year, Clay?
I'd say about 92 wins. I think the Brewers will win that division. I think they've slightly improved adding Edward Cabrera. Bullpen's a little better. Now, you say adding Alex Bregman's this big bat, and yes, it helps, but you also lost Kyle Tucker, who is one of the better hitters in the league. That's going to hurt.
But to be fair, he wasn't last year. The second half of the year, he was one of the worst hitters in baseball.
Well, there were a few of the Cubs that tailed off. PCA was one of the better hitters in the start and then really tailed off. Can he put a year together full? I don't know. There's a lot of I got as many questions about the Cubs lineup as I do the Brewers, to be honest with you. I like some of the pieces the Cubs put in there, but Brewers showed last year they were the better team with that lineup and that pitching rotation. And the only difference is they don't have Peralta, he was pretty good, but
it's a big piece. That's a big piece. And Durbin was he didn't hit a lot of home runs, but that's not the kind of player he is. I do question how that's going to affect the Brewers is getting rid of one of your really bright young talents. Now they did it for pitching, but hopefully that pitching pans out, I guess would be my question.
As a whole, though, the Brewers really didn't do a whole lot of home run hitting last year. So I don't think, they won their games, everything with singles and, crazy bunts. It wasn't the long ball that was helping them win the games. It was more fundamental baseball. So I don't really think, Durbin is going to be a huge loss.
No, I wasn't saying he's going to hurt in the home run category, but he was a solid hitter all year. Oh, yeah. And I think he's going to hurt in that way. It's taken an awful chance. Now, again, though, you required a guy that has been significantly underachieving from 3 years previous. So if he comes back, he's capable of hitting 17, 18 home runs in his prime, in his best years. If you can get 15 out of him, that would be a huge win for the Brewers because they flipped him for a guy that maybe will produce the same if he gets back to those numbers and you added pitching on top of that. So, there's so many variables in baseball, and I think that's what makes seasons so hard to predict. And I also think how people play together and work together is one thing that a stat sheet cannot predict ahead of time. And that's why you see a lot of these teams, they go out and win free agency, but they don't have a very good season because the players, just don't link together very well.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about that story that came out? And my first thought was Ben had something to do with it. The Brewers offered a 13-year-old $1 million on a verbal agreement, but it got voided because he got caught with performance-enhancing drugs. So that leads me to believe Ryan Braun has some kind of connection. What was your guys' first thought when you heard that kind of money for a 13-year-old? Which is at that point, that story came out. That was half of what they spent on big league free agency.
Yeah. That kind of money for a 13-year-old is pretty crazy. And then to top it off and have him test positive for something at 13. Come on. It just shows you sports is Man, it's getting. I don't even know what to say. A 13-year-old testing positive for PEDs, the $1 million contract. That's crazy. This money. I mean, you're saying it all the time. Money is ruining the sport. You look at what it's doing to college football. You look at what it's doing to college sports in general, and it's just an absolute joke. And now you're going after 13-year-olds. I mean, for God's sake, let them enjoy recess without scouting them. You know, I mean, you got scouts hanging out on the playgrounds, checking out, who's throwing the ball left-handed to sign them immediately. It's just crazy. That kind of money for a 13-year-old is just nuts, and it's going to get worse as these teams try to. And you know what the Brewers do, and they have for years, is the Brewers will sign the young players. They'll develop them just long enough to get them into that big contract and then let them go. And that's
unless you're starting to see their strategy here, because the thought process behind signing a 13-year-old is get him to be about Cheerios age and get him to be stupid enough to sign a contract he shouldn't have signed. That's how the Brewers are locking in these players.
Well, some of these young players, I mean, technically, I guess if you look at it, the way the Brewers are signing these young players, they're getting them during their prime. You know, they get them from 20 to 25, 26, 27, then let them go once they get into their 20, 29, 30s. I mean, you're getting them at the best time of their career, basically. So from the Brewers' standpoint, it's decent enough, but it's not really paying off with championships, obviously. You got to have a decent mix of veterans and young guys. And
I think the Brewers' problem has always been the same. They do great at everything except adding at the deadline. I think all they have to do is add one or two inexpensive veteran pieces at deadlines, and that would put them over the top. But I don't think you're ever going to see that. $5 million to them is like $100 million to the Dodgers. They just don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, they won't. They haven't. I can't remember a big signing ever that they had.
CC Sabathia was the only trade I remember at the dedeadline where they went all in one time in their history.
Usually it's a big sell-off, or they're getting rid of players. And that one, and I still go back to it. That year they let Hader go, that ruined their chance that year. That ruined the clubhouse. As soon as that trade went through, it seemed like it took all the air out of the Brewers, and they were just crap. After the All-Star break, go back and look at it. They died. It was just a horrible letdown. And, Hader went to, I forget where he went, to San Diego, and he had a couple of rough games.
Maybe it was San Diego.
He put it together. So, I don't know. That killed him that year. And I'll always say that they had the chance that year, and it killed them. They got rid of them, and it killed the season. I think the Brewers' window on a championship is closed. Last year was their chance, and that was the year to win the World Series. That everything going for them, and they did.
And that was another year they could have added I still think all they really needed last year was one power bat and they could have been a veteran, relatively inexpensive, but they needed that one guy that can flip a game in a swing. Like you said, they didn't win a lot of their games that way. You need that one guy, I think, in a playoff series that can flip the game in one swing.
Especially in a short series like that, over the course of 160 games. But when you're in a short series, yeah, that would come in handy. One swing of the bat would have changed the game. The first game against the Dodgers, there was a close, tight game, and they just couldn't get by. So, yeah, that would have helped.
And we'll follow. There'll be plenty of stories here leading up to the season the next month or so. And then we get the World Baseball Classic. So we got a ton to talk about. Let's get into some basketball. Clayton, do the Bucks actually have some hope now? They got Cam Thomas for nothing, basically, on a buyout contract. 34 points in his first game. He's got Giannis excited. The Bucks have won 5 of 6. Blasted OKC. The kid's 24 years old. He's averaged 21 points a game the last 3 years. And he's not the only one. They got this kid. How do you say it's Ousmane Dang or something like that? He's only 22, 6'8". He's averaged 4 points a game in his career. He's a forward. They needed a big body defender. Somebody does some dirty work. He's averaging 12 a game with the Bucks. What is going on? Maybe the Bucks had a couple things just fall into their lap. What do you think, Clayton? What's going on in Milwaukee?
Well, Cam Thomas the guy can play. can be a little inconsistent at times, but he can play. He can score, and they haven't had a good score. I mean, Lillard was a good scoring guard, but he played zero defense, and they didn't have much off the bench. And Cam Thomas is a guy who can come off the bench, and he can put up points when you need it. And they're doing this without Giannis in the lineup right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they added him. Kevin Porter Jr. is a heck of a ball player too. He can kind of do a little everything. He can run point. He can rebound. He can score. And then they got some good big guys. They all around. They made some moves under the radar kind of moves towards the trade deadline here, and that kind of revamped this roster. And you can see the excitement they're playing with. You can see how excited Giannis is to get back out there. And when he gets back out there, look out.
That Dieng deal kind of fell under the radar because he was traded once to Chicago and they got him on a second trade. He was traded twice in like a week and a half.
Yeah, and he's a big guy who can shoot the ball, and he does some of the dirty work, rebound, play a little defense, but he can shoot the 3-pointer too, which is such a huge thing in the NBA right now. Everybody just shoots 3-pointers. So
yeah, they were dropping those threes. They were dropping those threes against OKC like nobody's business, man. They were going down, and it was like every other shot, and they were hitting them. It was crazy. It was and to see how excited Giannis was on the bench when he's jumping up and pumping, and he just can't wait to get out there, and it's going to be a definite. They're going to get into the playoffs now. I mean, it's definite. Only because the NBA, I think the regular season after playing 80 games, it only eliminates 2 teams, I think, out of the whole thing. So everybody gets in anyway. But I think the Bucks have obviously a legitimate shot. They're only 2 games behind. I think Atlanta's got the last spot right now.
And I always think for some reason the Bucks are a much better come from behind underdog team than they are a team with a ton of expectations. If you remember the year they were really favorites, they lost to the Lakers. Wasn't that the COVID year, the bubble year? And they got crushed by the Lakers in the playoffs that year. But they are better, I think, when no one's expecting anything from them. I just think they've just been that way. I can see them making some serious noise. When we were talking before the show, Jeff, a lot of times getting a shooter like Cam Thomas, even if that's all he does, is sometimes takes the pressure off of everybody else. And then everybody else can kind of fall into what they do best. Whereas before, everyone's trying to be the shooter, and that's not really their roles. That's not what they're best at. And everyone's trying to be something they're not. Now, hopefully, it seems like people are settling back into what they're best at. And again, like Clayton touched on, which is a great point, Giannis isn't there, and they're starting to really play some good basketball. In a roundabout way, it might be a blessing that he is kind of on the sidelines temporarily.
Yeah, the rest of the team is coming on strong. And, yeah, if they can win like that, if they can put up those numbers without him, just wait till he comes back. I just want to say, a couple of years ago, it always seems that the Bucks, they play great regular season, and then it seems like that last month they have some stupid injuries that carries them over into the playoffs, and it ruins their playoffs. I think this year they might be stretching this out. They're going to do the Dodgers. They're going to do just enough to get into the playoffs, make sure they're safe, make sure everybody's 100%, and once you get into the playoffs, hopefully turn the switch and go from there, because we've seen it time and time again going into the playoffs where Giannis was hurt and the big names are hurt going in, and by the second round they're out. So maybe this year, space it out a little bit, play your best ball in May going into the playoffs, and maybe carry it into that.
They're definitely bringing some excitement. Man, I don't know. Clayton kind of got me jacked up he seems excited about it. Giannis seems excited about it. So why shouldn't we be excited is what I'll ask you guys at home. Why not? Why? I mean, the NBA is such an inconsistent league from week to week and month to month. You just never know. Like you guys were saying, guys don't play hard during the regular season anymore. Maybe the Bucks were saving a little for the second half. We shall see. Do you guys think, we'll make this part really quick, do you guys think NBA buyouts should even be allowed? I think it's one of the most odd things that's allowed in professional sports. You see all the times really great players are just dropped. Either the team wants to tank or the player just doesn't want to play there anymore because he doesn't, he's not getting the money he wants, or the team's not good enough, and they just drop them for nothing and they can go to a contender. I just don't think that's right. If you don't want to play, go ahead and sit at home. What do you guys think? Should NBA buyouts be allowed at their current structure after this year, of course, because this year it worked out okay?
They may need to do a tweak on it, but I, my biggest thing, and that goes for every sport. If you sign a contract, you play till the contract's done. And if you don't want to play, if you get upset and you don't want to play anymore, tough. Now you're going to ride the bench, or trade.
You're gonna get A-rotted.
Yeah,
Make him ride
if
the
you're
bench.
past the trade deadline, then you can watch on TV from home. But, you
for
sign a
some
contract,
reason-
you play for that contract.
For some reason, there's two names that come to mind: James Harden and Kevin Durant. For some reason, those guys always seem to be wanting to go to a new team.
Yeah.
What do you think?
They want to build a super team. You see it. LeBron's always bouncing around between. Let's go here with the Heat and build a super team. It's not how it was back in the day. Giannis is one of the rare few. I think him staying in Milwaukee showed they didn't move him. I think the NBA was more so trying to force the Bucks' hand on moving him. Is my opinion on that. I don't think the Bucks wanted him to go. I don't think Giannis wanted to go. And now they've got some players there that are looking good. I don't like this whole buyout thing. Unless it's something like like a Ryan Braun, where you sign him to a multi-million-dollar deal and then he gets pops for steroids, and then you can do something with that contract. But
yeah, you should in those situations. Yeah.
In situations like that, 100%.
But not because you don't want to play or you don't want to do the contract or the team wants to tank. That's bull. That's just bull.
Speaking of tanking, the NBA fined 2 teams this week for tanking, and one I just don't understand. Was it the Magic that they fined, or no? The Indiana Pacers, I believe, was signed. They won the game. They won the game, and they got fined for tanking. That makes
not by enough, Jeff. Not by enough.
I bet they probably didn't cover the spread, or something happened because it had to be gambling related. But I don't understand how you can fine a team for tanking. I can understand if you tank and lose, but if you tank and win, you're just really crappy at tanking. So you don't understand the concept of tanking. But
now, I was gonna say, I think it's double on that. It's part of it is you're sitting some of your high-end players and the whole gambling aspect of it. But like a Pascal Siakam, you're sitting him not a healthy scratch. He could play, and he's in street clothes. That's what the NBA is looking at. But a lot of it comes back to gambling, I think, because that makes a big difference on your spreads and what could potentially happen for better. So it's really coming a huge part of the game.
As the last comment on this, I think, Clayton, you bring up a great point. I think what I saw at the celebrity basketball game where Shams was on Giannis's team, and some of the interviews Giannis did basically belittling him. And there was this one scene during the game he was going to put him in, and he kind of just did like this and walked away. Giannis walked away from him. I think it's very obvious to me, at least, that all those stories were BS, and that Giannis didn't leak any of that. Like his brother said, like Thanasis said, when they keep saying his people, we are his people, and none of us said anything, is what he said in one of the interviews. I think it's just a big story because, you have to talk about something. It was clear to me the way they interacted that Giannis did not appreciate what was going on in the media. And the way I see it is that there really wasn't much smoke there. I think it was all fabricated. And like you said, Clay, where else would you rather? Giannis seems more like a guy that wants to build it himself. And if you watch his upbringing and how he got to the country and how he was drafted, he is a very loyal person just by his DNA, right? And unless something is really, really off, I just don't see him wanting to go to another team. They'd have to really be some malpractice on the Bucks' part, because we heard this up the last time he signed a max extension, and all of a sudden, next summer he signed a max extension. I think we're going to see the same thing. All right, moving on to the last point here of the night. Can we finally officially call Sam Darnold good? Is that allowed now?
Well, the haters are going to throw out that he didn't have the best Super Bowl. He didn't win the MVP. He was 19
of 38, 202 and a tutty.
Touchdown. So
0 turnovers.
Yeah. So Yeah, it wasn't a great game, but he won the game. You know, he's not like Trent Dilfer. You know, Dilfer won the game going 12 of 25 with 150 yards, and he won the Super Bowl. So he won the game. He didn't hurt anybody. Obviously, he didn't hurt the team, and he played what he was supposed to do, and he won the game. This just confirms that he can win the big game. This one
Now,
doesn't get any bigger than the Super Bowl. He went 29 wins in the last 2 regular seasons. He's good. So
that's a
he's
great.
good.
You hit the point on the head. No turnovers for the playoffs, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I would rather have that. How many quote unquote great media quarterbacks like Josh Allen and some of these other guys did we see turn the ball over multiple times and have throughout their career? I'd rather have a quarterback that does what I'm calling and what I ask of him and not give the ball to the other team and just play a game manager label is a bad label by a media perception. But that's what I want. I want a guy that can manage the game and get the ball down the field and don't give it to the other team. That's all you need. All these other flashy guys flamed out in the playoffs this year. What do you think, Clay?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I mean, you look at that game against the Patriots, it was a defensive battle, like I said it was going to be. And throughout, they knew we can't turn the ball over. So they let him throw it here and there, but they ran the ball. They ran the ball and played off of that. And he did what he needed to do to get the ball down the field into the end zone and win the game. You go to the 2 weeks before when they played the Rams, who was them, and Stafford was the MVP. He played right along with Stafford, shot for shot, throw for throw. He looked like a damn good quarterback in that game. I will say Sam Darnold's a good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. I mean, he did really well with the Vikings prior. He just won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. How can you argue against him being a good quarterback when he's on top of the world right now? He just won the freaking Super Bowl. That's the goal for every quarterback in the league. Drake May looked awful in that game. His offensive line looked awful. That whole team.
His left tackle Campbell I've never seen him play that bad. He just got completely worked over. That was like the B team playing the A team. The Super Bowl was played when the Seahawks played the Rams in a conference championship. That was your Super Bowl matchup. The Patriots they were not on the level of the Seahawks. You could see it from the start of the game. Drake May did not have a good game. He looked, and Drake May not only a bad Super Bowl, he had a bad playoffs. He looked horrible in every single playoff game. Now, granted, they were all against top 5 defenses, but if you do that every single time, all 4 games, that starts to become a trend. And Mike Vrabel, who's the OC, Josh McDaniel, didn't really make any adjustments. I was kind of surprised they didn't use a tight end, a chip off that left side. They never really did, and they never got anything going for that reason. But they basically called the game like they were scared to put the ball in Drake May's hands. That's the way it appeared. Ben says the defenses got him the ball and kept him in the game. Walker took the pressure off Darnold, and JSN covered his mistakes. Heck, I didn't know JSN was even in the game. What did he catch? 2 balls?
I couldn't tell you. I know he had a few thrown to him. Gonzalez made a few good plays on the ball. He's a really good corner. He was covered by one of the better corners in the league all game. It was a defensive game. The Patriots have a very good defense. Like Dave was talking about last week, it was that interior defensive line and defense of the Patriots should be able. Kenneth Walker ran all over him, which is kind of my theory. Is I thought Walker, if it was going to take him to have a big game running the football, and they were going to win. But still, you go back to 2 weeks ago against the Rams. What did he do? He outshot Stafford and won that game. And he's done everything he's needed to win the game for his teams and get them there.
And that's all that matters.
I'm going to throw this out there. If Darnold was a Packer fans would still hate him because he didn't throw for 300 yards, 4 TDs. You know, it's completely different. This is the type of quarterback that they would say would never win a Super Bowl. He's trash. That's what Packer fans are constantly saying about Love. But Darnold proved he's there. There was a reason why he got there. He won the Super Bowl with him. So anybody who's constantly going to hate on him, well, he's got a ring. How many does Josh Allen have? You know,
first one in that draft class to win a Super Bowl.
So,
congrats, Sam Darnold. And Clayton said right on this program, he was looking forward to seeing Sam Darnold hold that trophy up. Now, we're missing one guy this week. Void has not been heard from, not been seen
do a
from.
welfare check.
I don't know if Clayton ever made it out to the Northeast for that, middle school party. But I was hoping Void would be here tonight to give us his insights. I know how he was a big fan and was looking forward to that game. Hopefully Void is doing okay at home. That's all I can say.
It was for me. People were saying how horrible Super Bowl it was. I'm a person who likes defense. I thought it was a pretty darn good Super Bowl.
Yeah, it kind of got away. The last 10 minutes, it kind of got away. But even through the third quarter, it was a very competitive game. Literally, if the Patriots could have done anything on offense, there was one play in particular Drake May missed that I thought could have got him right back in the game, and they just could not. They could not get anything going whatsoever. But it was only like an offensive score away from being a really good Super Bowl if you like those 80s, late 80s type games.
Right after. I believe it was right after the Seahawks got their touchdown, and 2 plays later, the Patriots got in the end zone, then got the ball back, thinking, here we go, this could be turned into a pretty decent game. But then the Seahawks defense just put a stop to that, and it was just pretty much all over. But it was defensively, both teams played phenomenal. It was great for someone who likes defense.
Yeah, absolutely. So Packer fans probably would not have been interested in this.
Yeah, not interested.
Any last thoughts here on our way out, guys?
Hey, USA Hockey, both men's and women's playing phenomenal. USA just beat Denmark today, 6-3, play Germany tomorrow. And then the playoffs or the medal tournament starts next week. The women play in the semifinals on Monday, 10 in the morning against Sweden. And they'll probably end up playing Canada for the gold. Should be some fun stuff coming up.
Awesome. What do you got, Clay? Anything on the way out here?
I got a USA women's curling team beat Canada for the first time and won gold. Big time. I've
crazy.
That was awesome to see. It was cool to see a curling game and see USA knock off Canada. Go USA.
Yeah. Nice. Crazy. That was actually epic. That was amazing.
That was a great shot.
My last thought of the night is it's great to welcome Benny Bayless back for the first time in about 6 episodes. Welcome back, Benny Bayless. Hopefully you can join us again soon. Maybe you can find where Anton's been hiding and you both come back and let's get some segments going. I was thinking, what would be the best segment Benny Bayless could have? Let's see if he has any interest in trying to promote, because I got a feeling he's going to have to beg people to take him this year, trying to promote and convince other GMs of a new team every week why they should sign Aaron Rodgers and why he's good for their team. That will be an uphill battle. What do you guys think? Ratings gold?
Definitely. I just saw his comment about Minnesota made the right move by sticking with J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, quality move right there. Quality move.
If he was smart, if Benny was smart, that should be the first team. He said that should be the first team he tries to convince. Now, he said he took Anton into a darkness retreat and left him there. So we haven't seen from Anton in 3 months, probably since the last show. I don't think he's been on one of the new episodes. So, Anton, if you're out there, we hope you're okay. We'll send a search party. Maybe what we could do is put a GoPro on Benny and he can go searching for Anton and see if he can find him.
Searching for Anton. That should be our new series.
All right, boys. Hey, great show tonight. Baseball seasons are on the corner. We'll see if one more week of Bucks basketball can keep the momentum going when they get back at the end of the week. I hope you guys have a good week. This was fun.
Have a great week, guys. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Thank you.